Hey guys, what's going on? It's Dead Gremlin. We've got another episode of the podcast for you, this time with Andrew MacLean. Super excited to have Andrew on. He was awesome. Hope you guys like the episode. We've also got the new t-shirt for the next couple weeks till the next episode. It's a sweatshirt this time, the Rainbow Unicorn. Check it out. It's just a crazy unicorn thing with a bunch of rainbow stuff all over it. Go pick one of those up. It's only up until the next episode, and then it's gone forever, so don't miss out. But yeah, let's get on with the episode. Okay, we're here. We're alive. Me and you. We're both here. Yeah, Andrew's here. Welcome to the Dead Gremlin podcast. I'm Jake Smith. You can call me Dead Gremlin if you want. But you don't have to. Right. It'd be funny to pepper it in sometimes. Like you're like, all right, Gremlin. Branding, when I'm being like badass. You're like, Gremlin, all right.
What is dope? Yeah. You never heard anybody say dope before?
Today we have Andrew MacLean, creator of Head Lopper, ApocalyptiGirl, and then your new book on Kickstarter, Snarlagon.
Snarlagon.
Yeah, hell yeah. So I was just telling Andrew how I've read it like 50 times, but in my head it still mixes it up, and I'll say Snargalon.
Snargalon. Yeah. You know, I'll take it. You know, it still sounds very kaiju-ish.
Yeah, they both work.
Yeah.
And do you want to get the name of the thing that's killing your entire city and you're scared of Like someone goes, Snarlagon, and they go, well, actually, hey,
stop running.
And you just stop. He got his name wrong.
Yeah.
How has that been going? It's super successful. You guys made, what did you guys end up?
It was like 550% funded or something.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say $550,000. I was like, I read that wrong.
No, it's a $10 book. I can't even imagine how many books that would be.
That's crazy. So, when did that end? A couple days, last week?
Yeah, last week or the week before.
Oh, I got some waters, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that liquid.
But I wanted to get the cool ones that they always have on podcasts.
That's super Alexis Sarrit inspired.
I know. Do you think they saw it? They had to have seen it.
Dude, I don't know. It really looks like that spaceship. It really does.
It really does.
They hired him after the fact, but I think
they
probably
did?
just felt obligated.
Oh, yeah, probably. I mean, how can you copyright like a melting skull?
You can't. No, you can't.
That's how you do it. That's how you steal with grace. You go, you can't.
And it's not outside the realm of possibility that they both came to the same conclusion.
Melty skulls on the same day. And Alexis posted it first, and they were like, oh my God.
Oh, dang it. They're just like, well, he did it with a brush pen, but mine's a deadline, so totally different.
So its own. I did stippling.
Yeah,
I'm a stippler.
Yeah.
I steal. I go, whoever, Jeff Darrow, and I go, he doesn't stipple that much.
He doesn't stipple.
I can fill that gap. But yeah, tell the people who don't know about Snarlagon what it's all about.
Snarldragon knows.
Snarldragon. Yeah, Andrew told me some people have called it, what do they call Head Lopper when they get that wrong?
Yeah, there's always something. So yeah, Head Lopper is either Head Looper or Hero Looper.
Looper.
And I'm just like, man, that's so less violent sounding.
It's like that movie. It's like, does he time travel?
That's exactly what they think. They're like, it's like the movie. I'm like, it's not like that movie.
But if you like Looper, it is like Looper.
You know what? If it'll get you to buy the book, go for it.
I do shit like that. People will be like, I'm like Blood Force Trauma, and they're like, he's in a video game, and he's not, but it's way harder to explain he's not in a video game. Yeah. So I'm like, he's trying. It's like Ready Player One. Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
If they come up with a Ready Player One tattoo, I'm like, it's just
like it. Do you like that? You'll love that.
Yeah. But yeah, the Snarlagon. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so Snarlagon it's like my kind of Showa era like love letter. Not that Godzilla War for Humanity is not.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. Don't worry.
But yeah, so it's like I set it in the 60s, and I tried to write all the dialogue to feel like 50s, 60s, 70s movies, and even the logic.
Like the dub?
Yes, that, but also like even American movies, they just talk funny.
Yeah, you're
movies, right. So
all the men are like, we gotta get that monster.
Exactly, yeah. And they like over-explain everything. Yeah.
His cells are irradiated. And you're like, whatever.
Well, yeah, it's so on that same course, it's like the Gamera movies are so they're so for kids often. Yeah. They're trying to make the kid the hero, and so somehow the kid is smarter than all the adults.
Yeah.
They're just like a bunch of like scientists being completely stumped how to stop a monster, and a kid's like, I don't know, what about solar energy? And you're like, you're right, kid. And it's just like, calm.
Because adults are jaded by the way the world
guess so.
works, and kids are
That's
like,
what it is.
you're polluting the oceans.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's business, kid.
Yeah. You figured it out. Good thing you're here.
Like Hedorah's like that. The Godzilla versus Hedorah, the whole plot is the kid is like, what? He's a big sludge monster. Dude, Hedorah turns people into skeletons in that movie, and I feel like they never use that in the comics or any other, like,
That's a good point.
it flies over and then everyone becomes skeletons.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I
No
love
one
that
uses
movie.
that.
That one is so weird.
It's so good.
It's like
It's so of the
and all those little like
time.
snippets of like animation in it. And there's
Yeah.
like a disco scene or
I
something.
love that. The Showa era, yeah, especially, they were way more willing to be like, let's have the one, which one's the one where they talk with speech bubbles for one movie?
I don't even remember
Godzilla's
that.
like, Anguirus, let's go! And they're talking with speech bubbles, and I think it's Megalon or
Did it do it through the
Gigan.
whole movie?
Just
Or what?
when Godzilla and Anguirus are talking to each other. He goes,
Oh,
come
yeah,
on,
yeah.
Anguirus, and then it says, okay.
Crikey, that's
That's one of my favorites, too, where they go
ridiculous.
to Godzilla Land. And I think that's Gigan.
Is that the one? There's one that like most of it is made up of like clips. And
I don't
like,
know.
It was Mania's like talking the whole time. I'm like, you gotta shut up. This is awful.
It's like this book, are you kind of tapping into that, or are you trying to take some of the things that you don't like so much and like make them better? Like, we were talking at a show once where we love Godzilla movies, especially in the background, because you can stop and draw. You draw during the boring bits and then be like, yeah. Are you like
exactly
getting rid of those boring bits?
I mean, yes and no. Like, I'm having fun with it in Snarlagon. Like, it's a short book, so you don't have time to get bored with it, right?
Exactly.
And so I do try to keep. I think that the human characters are very endearing. Like, it's a kind of innocent book in the end. Like, it really is. Again, where it's kind of inspired by a lot of stuff that was made for kids. I had like one F-bomb in it that I thought was just really funny.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? If I pull that out, the kids can, kids can read it. I can open it up to everybody. So I wrote it just to like,
yourself a little bit.
Yeah, to enjoy on my own.
And then deleted it slowly.
And I pulled it out. I was like, well, yeah, what am I gaining by...
You laugh a little bit. That's it.
like, this is just for me. And usually when I do that out of left field, kind of vulgar joke, usually someone goes, it really pulled me out, which I always find
That
is
makes sense. It's like an immersion.
Yeah.
breaker.
Yeah, you're making a character kind of act out of character for a moment. So I caught myself doing that, and I pulled it out. And I was like, it's so already right there, ready for kids to be able to read it.
Why not go all the way?
Yeah, and I was like, I have all these, fans who read Hero Looper. Excuse me, I always do that.
Hero Looper. Yeah. Even I think it should be called Hero Looper.
So, I have these adult fans. And I was like, how cool would it be for these folks to be able to share a comic from the creator that they might like, with their kids. So I made it I did end up making it,
And every kid
kid-friendly.
every kid that comes up, or every person who comes up to my booth, which is all kaiju stuff, it's 90% children.
That's what I said too. I was like, if I always use myself as a metric. So I'm like, if I was a kid and I was walking by and I saw a comic with like a big kaiju head on it, and I'm a 10-year-old, I'm like pumping the brakes. Dad, take me to go see this thing, you know? So I didn't want to have those kids come to my table and be like, sorry, kid, there's one F word in it.
You're done.
Yeah, you're done.
It would be funny for the parents to be like, is this good for kids? And you go, yeah. And then you give it to them, and then you're like imagining their reaction.
You grab your Sharpie and like, in 1 minute, let me get this.
My granny used to do that to all my comics.
Really? That's funny.
She used to, my first one, because she's so proud, but she's like, but I can't give it to my church friends. You know what I mean? So she's like going through and marking it out.
Your comics. I thought she was editing the comics that you read.
No, mine that I made. That I made, she'd be like, ooh. And then I'd be like, some would be like, not that bad, like, but. And I'd be like, but's bad? And she's like, people poop out of those.
You do?
And I was like, Granny, you do
makes
that?
so much more sense now.
We should have all pretended like, Granny, that's insane. No one poops out of their butt.
Pooping's a sin. So.
It was in like Numbers, my favorite book. Anyway, so timeline wise, did you complete it first? Are you working on it? Like how?
I completed it first. I'm very close to it. I wanted to try to, after like 4 volumes of Head Lopper, I was really exhausted. Like I felt like I always use the reference of I grew up loving Wallace and Gromit. So there's this there's this scene Wallace and Gromit, one of them, the wrong trousers, where Gromit's riding on a train, and he's laying track immediately in front of his train. And he's just like, and it's an amazing scene, completely genius animation, and it's so funny. And I just felt like that's how Head Lopper was going. Was I was only laying enough track to run it over. And it was exhausting and kind of stressful. Like I'd done it long enough that it had a following, and I wanted to continue to do a good job. And I would be like, I'd ask Image, I'm like, it's okay if I slow this down in between volumes? I'm like, no, give us more. And so I did for a while, and I just thought that it would suffer. And I'd wanted to do a kaiju comic for years, just a little one, even like 15 pages. It got longer, of course. But
you're like, I'll just do 15.
Just 15. And then I was like, the idea got to about 100. I was like, I got to write that. I was like, I wanted to try to create it in a vacuum and almost recreate where I made Head Lopper originally. That was a self-published thing, and I thought no one would ever read it, so I didn't worry about it. I was just like, this is something that I want to do. I want to have fun making this thing. And so when I decided I'd take a little time off from Head Lopper to plan the rest of the series, I was like, I'm going to draw this kaiju comic, and I'm going to finish it before we kickstart it.
Which is always a good idea.
Yeah. Also, you can fulfill it right away. But also, I just wanted to do my best to, pretend there was no pressure. Try to be like, this will become a product when I'm done with it, So I got distracted a few times, and it took me about a year because I was doing some things simultaneously.
But it felt less stressful when you did get distracted.
Exactly.
Because you're like, I gave myself that room. Yeah.
And when I would return to it, I would, it was such a wonderful break. And it was such, I could just do whatever I want. I had no boss, didn't have to please anybody, didn't have a deadline. So when I got to work on it, it really felt really refreshing.
Good. And I have seen some of the pages, and you can feel that when you're saying that, this guy, it was all love. There's no, because you can read some people, like, especially I think artists we know, and read their book and look at just very specific panels, and just knowing their personality, you can go, he was a little stressed out when he did this panel.
Yeah, or sometimes you're rushed, and you just like, I think of comics as I'm a lot of creators will get to the end of a book like, I'm going to redraw the first 10 pages or something. I was like, but when you're done with those first 10, you're really going to still want to draw the next. Exactly. So I'm always like, I'm very much like, move forward, keep going forward, let it be.
It's hard
in
to
the time.
Do that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's not illustration where one drawing is the whole thing. Like you're telling a story. It's really, comics are really about the whole, all your panels, not just one. So I really try to just move forward. Like, sure, that doesn't look like that character that it is, but we're moving forward.
Don't think about it. I think that's an art in itself. I was talking to Kyle about this a little bit, and we had Baldemar Rivas on, where his episode will come out later. But we were talking about having that skill to know kind of what the audience finds most important on a page.
Sure,
like if you're going in order of like kaiju, the kaiju is the most important thing.
Sure, we're here for Godzilla.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
Then you go down the list, humans, and then like environment. So if your stress level is getting you in a place where you're kind of going loosey-goosey on the most important thing, it's like to take some of that stress from like the tree that's 3 miles away or whatever.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think that to that end, I think that's a good idea. And if you do have time, I think a lot about something I had read. David Mazzucchelli had said that like you should think of drawing like you're focusing the eye.
Yeah.
Like, so like whatever the subject matter is, that deserves the majority of your attention.
Yeah, exactly.
And the panel that, was used for reference was a woman on a bike in like Central Park or something. Yeah. And in the background, the trees and stuff were very blobby, beautifully drawn, of course. Yeah. But they were blobby. And I was just like, that eye, your eye, he's drawn an eye that's focused on the bike. Yeah. And the rider, and the trees are blobby because that's what your experience is like you look at a thing and everything around it is blobby because it's blurry because that's not what you're looking at. Yeah. And I don't think I really ever drew the same after that. Everything got a little blobbier after that.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because I've noticed the evolution in your art from Head Lopper, early days Head Lopper, to later and later. And I feel like I can always tell it's you, but you've got phases and eras in your art.
I do, yeah.
When you discover a new technique, that becomes like the whole book.
Yes,
like when you discover the
the hatch line or that did the contour around like Head Lopper, all of his muscles. It was like a whole new era, but the whole book didn't feel like now it's all of a sudden a different book. But I was like, oh, Andrew discovered a new inking technique, and he's loving it.
Or I'm working on it. Yeah.
Or
so
working on
like,
it, yeah.
if I feel like if I'm comfortable with something that I've been working on, I'll start to ask myself, like, what am I lacking? You know? And so in Head Lopper, and I've heard Mignola talk like this too, that he considers his black and white drawings incomplete and they're not done until a colorist comes in. Yeah. And I used to think the same way. But then, I got more into manga, which is all black and white too, so the lighting is all there in the black and white. And so eventually I thought to myself, well, you don't really have, because you don't focus on it, you don't have the best lighting chops. And so, I'm always working on something. And so I would get more into lighting or whatever. And then eventually I'm like, all right, I got a lot of cross hatching going on. And now I'm in a kind of a stage where I'm like, all right, let's
cool.
pull it back a little bit.
So that era is kind of...
Well, I want to fine tune it, right? And not like, I don't want to overdo it. Like I can sit there and drool over a page of manga that the entire background is cross-hatched.
But also 15 people worked on it.
15 people worked on it. And I've got a great colorist on my team. Jordan Blair is amazing.
Fantastic.
So it's like, I don't really need to, do all that work because she's going to come in and perfect everything.
Kyle talked about it too, because his colorist on Twig, you kind of like, and early on, you think that, the artists have this weird thing in our head that says that's cheating or something. We're like, well, I gotta do all the ink here, the color, but then you get to the point where you're like, if I'm over hatching, like even on Godzilla, I think there was a page in the second issue. I fixed it, so the second issue is great, but I think I overcolored a page, and I took it to my friend Buster Moody, who's a great colorist, and I was like, what am I doing? And he gave me a couple notes, but it took away, it didn't feel tokusatsu anymore. Okay. Because I started doing like too many highlights on things, and then the more highlights, because if you think of tokusatsu,
like layer your lighting sometimes, and so I'll do the same thing. I'll do like my last layer of highlights or something. I was like, didn't need those highlights. That was a little too shiny or whatever. But continue.
Now on our PDF of issue 2, they forgot a layer of highlights, and I needed it, so I said, please put that layer back in. But I feel like if it's all about the final product, I'm getting to that point. I wasn't like this 6 months ago. I was like, no, my ink, I have to like overshadow the colorist, which is me.
I was saying,
But I feel like especially if you color, and have you ever colored? You paint.
I colored ApocalyptiGirl.
You did. Those colors are so cool.
Thanks. When I went into it, I was like, I'm just gonna do like a 2-color like palette, super easy, and of course
it's a little bit. It's more than that for sure.
Yeah, it starts that way, and then it's just goes, gets into a full spectrum of color.
So it's like, was it hard to come and be like, no, it's cool to let the colors shine. I don't need to kill myself. Everything.
It's still something I consciously, have to think about, especially where I used to actually dislike hatching largely. I loved just a solid, like clean line. I was in love with that. And it wasn't until I fell like deeply in love with manga and older manga, because it can be both cartoony with like it can be super cartoony with like a photorealistic background, weird stuff like that. And I just fell so in love with particularly that type of technique of hatching. And I like kind of like 70s manga, where it's such a weird blend of those things. I just really wanted to incorporate that more and more. But any one technique can get out of hand. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I've enjoyed learning those techniques. But I also think, there was something to be said for keeping it really clean too.
Because with Snarlagon, it's very minimalistic environments. Yeah. But I feel like you're going for that because we want it to feel like it's a model that someone made of the city.
100%.
You want to pan off to the right and there's guys with boom mics.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
So that's I love that. I think with Godzilla, I thought about doing that, and I used to do that very hard. But I think our story is set a little bit more in our reality.
Absolutely.
So I didn't do that as much. Yeah. But talk about that, because like, when you were writing it, did you ever consider setting it in the 60s, 70s like this book, or was it always it's got to be modern because it's from IDW, it's got to be set now. They got to have smartphones. You know?
Also, I used to say that I was like, I never want a comic with a cell phone.
Dude, I
hate
hate
it.
it.
As soon as you like write a modern story, you're just like, that's how we talk to each other.
Like a globe trotting. Like I'm in Madagascar. You're over here.
Yeah.
How do they have a carrier pigeon? But wait.
Yeah, exactly.
That
All of a
takes
sudden,
months.
you're just like, oh, geez, we need cell phone.
You're like, wait, we invented that because we need it. So the characters in this story need it.
It's almost like if you have a modern story without a cell phone, you're like, well, this is unrealistic. There's no cell phones.
True. And to the point where horror movies have to jump through crazy hoops to make sure all the characters at the beginning somehow lose all their cell phones.
Yeah, exactly. So they can't be like, yo, there's a guy out here with an axe.
Let's solve this right now.
Don't come out here. Don't do it.
He does not look friendly.
End of story. They stayed inside.
So they have to be like, I fell in the syrup you made from your pancakes, and they slip and their phone flies out.
Phone's in the toilet.
They're like, shit. Oh, there's a murderer over here.
But I think so there's two parts. It was like I wanted to feel, have some Showa era love because I love that, and you do too.
Oh yeah.
But also I knew the story that I wanted to tell was gonna have a lot more modern things and a lot of like stuff all over the globe. And then the other part is that I was already working on Snarlagon when I decided to pitch a story to IDW.
Yeah.
So it was definitely scratching that itch.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like both the way like I was drawing it and the way that I was writing it, and so I was like, all right, like I wanted to bring in like Manda and Gorosaurus, some of my favorite monsters. But
Gorosaurus, fan favorite,
yeah,
people go wild. You get that 2-page Gorosaurus spread.
He's like so.
He's the derpiest one.
Perfectly derpy. Yeah, I love him. I kind of wish there were some better Gorosaurus toys. There's like one that's like pretty derpy, but some of them like that's a little too T-Rexy.
I love even the toy companies are going, fucking just paint it in 2 seconds. Like, the kids aren't going, there's one kid named Andrew with a giant beard who's like, please.
Give me some more Gorosaurus.
Please, can you airbrush it? Like one pass of airbrushing? And they're like, no, this is the gray mold.
Like we already have a mold for a T-Rex. Can we just use that?
And you're going, no.
Yeah, and I'm like, actually, he's got 3 fingers, not 2.
His head's a lot bigger in proportion.
I prefer the eyebrows a little heavier. That's true.
Well, I thought that too. I think Gorosaurus, guys, issue 2, go pick it up. When we post this, it'll still be a couple weeks. But I think my art, and not to toot my own horn in any way, but I think the progression from 1 to 2, I think it's like a different book. I got this yesterday. Which go pick it up, issue 1. I haven't gotten a copy yet.
You picked up at the store.
I went to the store.
Can I see it?
Yeah, go for it.
I painted this on paper, and I'm always like, how is this going to print?
And it printed great.
It did print good.
It pops off the stand. I went to the comic store, and you do the squint test to see what pops.
From across the store.
And yours pop, like, kind of Marvel DC stuff.
Try to do.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you pick a... Do you pick a palette and then go, I'm doing this palette, or do you find the palette?
I like to do limited palettes, both because it's just plain easier and
it's better.
I think it's interesting. I don't really color very literally usually, or almost ever.
Yeah.
So
with Crayolas, you don't literally color on into it. Let's not literally color this today.
But yeah, I think to myself, like, what will it look like from across the store? Because if you put too many characters on it or you draw too small, it'll just become almost like a gray.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like white noise. And this one's busier than most, but I just wanted to show.
I know, you were like, I got to put it all.
I got to put all the kaiju. Yeah, I was like, this is all the kaiju you're going to see in this story.
No, it's great. And it does pop. And I feel like we did pretty good. Like, I've heard that it sold like relatively well. So that feels good. Just because all you go is, well, maybe they'll let us do more. That's all I think,
Yeah.
So
Same.
I don't get a pay increase if they make money.
yeah, it's worth it. I mean, I do think that's like, for artists, we should, ask for more money than we're probably even comfortable for.
Yeah.
Because it's I've asked for a few times for money that I'm like embarrassed to ask for. I'm just like, close my eyes, like, send me your email.
Yeah.
And the real hope is that if they're not comfortable with that they'll meet me somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean?
They won't just flat out. I have to tell myself that too.
Yes.
I'm like, they'll just literally right away go, we'll find someone else. But they don't want to go through a process of vetting artists. Yeah. So they'll help you.
Yeah. Another thing I tell myself is the editor doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's not their money. Like,
that's true.
They're gonna be like, well, I don't give a care. They're gonna take that email and pass it off to the money person, right? That's what I tell myself. And
the guys from Barbie, Will Ferrell, and all those guys.
yeah. And I'm sure the editor's like, yeah, I don't care how much money you get. Like, go for it or whatever. So I do encourage.
And he wants to make money. You know, the editor, like, I thought about that with pitching. I keep pitching my Dark Horse editor things, and I'm like, I'm bothering it. And then last time I pitched it, he went, oh, I had a meeting to go to give them more pitches. Thank you for this.
That's what happened with Godzilla. Yeah. They asked me to do a cover, and obviously I had a ton of fun drawing it. And it just hit me. I'd pitched a few licensed things before that, didn't find homes. And it just hit me. I was like, why did I never consider pitching a Godzilla story? It never crossed my mind.
It fits so.
Yeah, it was like I love this more than a lot of some of the pitches I have sent out, and then and it just worked. Timing was just perfect. I was just like, Jazz was the editor at the time, and I was like, can I pitch you a story? Like, I'm such a Godzilla fan. I don't know why I never thought of it. And they're like, yeah, sure. I'm about to send out all of next year's pitches to Toho for our entire calendar. Like, the timing was perfect.
That's awesome.
And I think within a week I was just like, and I can't do like kind of half ideas. So it was the full idea.
That's better.
And because I'm kind of like, I'm not really sure if an idea works until I'm sure it works.
Yeah.
So and it was just worked out. They came back around in a month or something. Like, sure. And I was like, dang, that was easy.
That's awesome.
It just barely, squeaked it in there.
And the timing for me in relation to that was perfect because, I went.
Good.
I was at C2E2, and a couple of years ago, and it was the worst. C2, like getting to C2E2, my car broke down on the way. My engine almost fell out, like all this shit. And I was like, I should go home. I almost went home. And when I was alone, you weren't there. I was like, whatever. Kyle had to come get me from the towing place and help me out.
Jesus.
Then I was like, last day, I had my Ghidorah, my Mecha Ghidorah print, and you were there. And I passed a couple times, and I was like, I should talk. He's so cool. I should talk to him.
Well, I was so loving all you were doing. This series of of very Showa era.
The prints,
prints and kaiju, and I was just loving your Instagram at the time. So
thank
you. Perfect.
Yeah, I came up and I was like, that'll be my olive branch, I guess. It'll start the conversation. Hey, I love your work. Here's my Mecha Ghidorah. And you were like, I've already seen this on Instagram. And I was like, and you said, I don't know if this is true, but you said, I've already put your name as on the list of people that could draw my Godzilla thing.
Yeah, I think I had just pitched it or something. I don't remember what stage I was at, but in my mind, I knew I didn't want to draw it because I was drawing Snarlagon, and I knew that I wanted to get back to Head Lopper. If I wasn't doing Snarlagon, I probably would have been like, I want to draw this,
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm scratching that kaiju itch. So
timing again. Like,
it just worked out. Yeah, exactly.
If you had been in the mood to do it yourself, that's why I asked you at Heroes this last time. I was like, Andrew, why didn't you want to draw it? And you were kind of didn't have an answer at that time. You were just like, I didn't feel like it.
No.
I like knowing there's a whole internal monologue of, well, I'll be too stressed to have two. Well, you don't want to not give Snarlagon the love it needs,
Yeah, and I was just, it feels like scratching an itch. Like I was like, I wanted to take a little break from Head Lopper I wanted to draw something else for a moment. And I wanted to get my head wrapped around the full series, how long was it going to go? What's that whole story and everything? And I was like, I'll give myself something to draw while I'm working, out the rest of the Head Lopper series. And so for me, I was like, I'm drawing a kaiju. I don't need to draw more, know, and also delay Head Lopper for another year or whatever. And I have been thinking, I had been thinking for a while that I was like, for a long time, writing was a means to an end. It was like, give yourself something to draw.
Yeah.
And then more and more I was, learning more about it and enjoying it more and more. And I was like, you know what? Like, I think I have more ideas than years in my life to get through. And I was like, so it was also like, well, if I want to do more and not that I'm stuck doing Head Lopper,
no, you want to,
but I want to keep it alive.
Yeah.
And I do love it. It's such a good vehicle for being able to draw whatever I want.
your body can only handle so many books at once, but your mind.
But exactly. Yeah. Drawing is it takes so long. So my thought was, do a short kaiju thing and maybe get into doing some more writing or whatever. And really Godzilla came out of nowhere. Like I said,
awesome.
It just hit me. I was like, why did I never, pitch one? And I had already been thinking that, I want to, write for some other people. So it's just like
and your writing's great. And I love working for you.
Thanks.
So far. It's really good. I like your style and you can I love, me and Kyle also talked about this, but I love when you can read a script and know an artist wrote it. You know what I mean? It's like, because you're like, because you leave enough room, but you also are like, this is important. Like you'll say like, for the story, this needs to be,
so
what I mean?
a little note in there or something. Yeah. Okay, you do like that.
I love that.
All right. And honestly, in action, like, I always think that like, well, action can kind of be anything. So like when I like sound effects, I'm thinking to myself, like if sound effect doesn't fit spatially, I hope he knows he can pull it out. Yeah. If he wants more or wants to spell it differently or whatever, that's all cool or whatever. Yeah. But I try to, sometimes there's a story beat, you know what I mean? It's like, just show this one little thing because it's going to come back or whatever, Well,
because like when we were first doing pitch stuff, and it's been a little tight because, the IDW editors,
honestly, I think
got fired. There were a bunch of them got let go. There was like that whole thing. Toho, some people got let go there and it all rearranged. So it was like, we were really crunched at the beginning for prep. So
the beginning was tough.
I was
stressed.
And I wanted to be like an artist and do my own Zoospora design early on. And then you came in and I had already done pages. And you were like, now it's fine to do that, but story, you've got to change these. And I was like, I got you, man. Hell yeah. You know what I mean?
And so personally, I think that even the folks that got laid off at IDW, like, I think my experience with IDW has been awesome and easy. Mm-hmm. But the Toho was kind of in some changes. Yeah. And they slowed us down by months. You know what I mean?
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that stress.
Yeah. I'm like thinking, all right, so he's drawing issue 3 right now. Yeah. My experience with IDW has been a breeze. We've been working with David. I say Marriott, but
that's what I say too because of the hotel. Yeah, and I've never met him, so
I think it's Marriott.
It might be. It's got 2 T's in it.
Yeah, sorry, David.
Marriott. And my other editor, Dave Hilton, or whatever.
So I think they've been awesome to work with IDW. But Toho was they slowed us down by months. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was really tough.
I don't think they meant to either. It was like they were restructuring as well.
I think so.
It was just it was a weird. I was like, a bunch of Toho people also got laid off. Like it just all happened.
Yeah, you're right. And like honestly, it was my first time working with IDW this way. And even when the stuff I've written for, which isn't a lot for other artists, it was so like creator owned. It wasn't something that had so many hoops to jump through. Yeah. And so I really thought, and maybe I should have been more specific about it or made this request to IDW, but I was seeing your stuff like way super late, and I thought things would kind of filter through me a little bit.
I thought so too.
Yeah. And so, there's a few specific attributes about our kaiju that I'm like, there's some abilities and there's some like design
I guess we can't
things.
Spoil it. I don't want to just keep spoiling too much. It hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it too much, but so there's like the fact that this they talk about it in issue 1 or whatever, but the fact that it's a fungus mushroom based kaiju comes from I listened to like some science podcasts and things or documentaries or whatever. Well, you have a lot of audio and visual kind of time when you're drawing. And so I find, little snippets of science, kind of interesting. And so I'm trying to give, Zoospora, some of these attributes, these very fungus.
Because anything realistic that you can inject just to give it that sense of this could happen, maybe.
And it's just like, and if it's a cool little factoid or whatever, it's just that's what inspired it. So there's when we were first working out, like where our designs will meet in the middle or whatever, it's just there's a few things I'm like, well,
it's got to have this.
Well, it's a fungus. So
I did like the email you sent. My email sounded like I was freaking out because I was like, should I tell like 6 pages?
Yeah,
and then your email was very, well, listen here. We were both like, I was like, please, and you were like, well, the fungus actually.
It's like this, that, and the other thing are fine, but there's this one thing.
Yeah.
There's one thing that must exist.
He can have mushroom spores on his head, but the tentacles gotta.
Yeah,
I mean, like
he's gotta be. He's a plant. He's gonna be attached to the ground. He can walk. He's gonna be attached.
I was like, but bro, if you can't walk, that's boring.
He can
and
jump.
You're like, he can do anything, man. He's gotta have roots.
Yeah, that was my thing. It's like, and also if
it's great, I love it.
And also I had thought like, okay, and that's why I thought that we'd have more communication up front. That I didn't realize that
weird, like,
you would be down the road, and it was like they're like, okay, yeah, you're approved, and then Jake's drawing pages. Yeah, and I thought there would be like, talkie time, like
let's ask Andrew. Or something.
Or like where they're just like talk to the editor, talk to the three of us. I thought there would be a little powwow before we got started, but Toho was like thumbs up, go, and I was just like, man, like
I think IDW does that. Like they look back at Toho and they're like, we can.
Go before they touch your mind. And so that was just a new experience for me. So I just thought, and it was like when I came up with the pitch for it originally, I came up with it really quickly because they're like, oh, we're going to send this out like tomorrow. And so I whipped it together really quickly. And luckily, I think it was solid enough that I still followed it as a roadmap throughout. But I just thought there would be time, even like an organized time where I'd be like, okay, these are the things that this kaiju can do, and these are the things that are important. This is where the story's going to go. These are its strengths and vulnerabilities and stuff. And so when we had talked about it, and I could tell that you were almost worried that the fact that it's a plant kind of kaiju was A, too violent, and B, that it was stationary. When I was like, no, this thing
can get up and move.
This thing can jump. You can do a backflip if you want, as long as it's.
Well, my only email was, he can't backflip. No one's gonna read this.
He cartwheels. I don't give a shit. Yeah.
Plant wings, right? Issue 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was clear to me in your emails when you're like, I've started this thing, like if these are the abilities, like it was clear that wasn't what was in your head, and I was just like, I thought they were gonna have us
just a little bit more,
and so I've learned something now that might not be
you've never done licensed work too.
I've never done
this
licensed,
is
not like certainly not writing. I've only done a little bit of licensed drawing
here and there, but not your own like vehicle that you're writing.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, here's a script, follow it kind of thing.
But it's been way smoother. I think we got it nailed. We got the approval people set in, and they approve things faster than they did before. Oh my God.
So. And they don't ask for any changes, or very, very few minor changes. Or
feasible changes that you can do.
Very doable.
Yeah.
And like some of the changes I was getting on covers were just so late. It would be like, I'm like turning final like paints, and they've got like 3 or 4 more edits like after the fact that I'm final. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, like I can go in digitally, I guess, but it's complicated. I'm using the stamp tool a whole lot, but.
And you can feel the stamp tool if you used it. Like, you don't want that on there.
I really
Someone
don't,
will see it from out and go like, I think I used the stamp tool though.
Someone on this cover was like, hey, the background, like, what digital brush are you using? Like, first of all, it's a real brush first, and then the stamp tool,
and then the stamp,
and then stamp.
Buy a real brush, and then you're gonna love the stamp tool because brushes are hard. You're like all cocky at first. You're like, I use a brush, but I'm not that good with it, so use a stamp tool.
And I didn't want like a painting with like half a square yard of like negative space.
Yeah. That makes sense. No, I love the composition on the cover. It's so good. I wish I had found one of mine. And so, I mean, I don't know how this translates, but every shop I've had my friends and family who are super gracious go to shops and pick it up. They get like 5 or whatever. And every shop that I've had friends at, which is like probably 10 or so, they come in and they're sold out of them. So
that's great.
That feels good,
Yeah.
you know? And but we talked about earlier that I like, because you can go, oh, well, maybe they'll give me more work.
Right.
But reviews, my mom has sent me reviews,
so
and
adorable.
I do not read it. I'm like, Mom, we kind of mentioned a little bit, but either way, I don't like reviews.
I mean, people are free to feel however they want
Exactly.
about reviews on their own work. But I felt like, early on, I would read reviews or whatever. It was too hard not to, you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, someone's talking about my book.
Bleeding Cool. Have you gotten a Bleeding Cool one?
I mean, it's like, I feel like when you have a #1 or a new series, people are like, we got to get out there and talk about this new thing. But as soon as you hit like a volume 2, there's like, that's old, man. Who cares? So,
So it's probably die by issue 2.
I think so too. Yeah. Or, I don't know. No, because I'm sure there'll be reviews for like the whole thing or whatever.
Oh, I'm sure. When the trade, it'll all come back.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
But yeah, good, bad, you don't like.
Yeah. I feel like it's sometimes I think it's kind of a natural human response, or at least I certainly am in this way. It's too easy to get hung up on when someone says something negative, when I wouldn't give as much attention to like something positive. Like you can get like 99% people just being nice, cool people, and like one person is a jerk, and I want to, and like it gets like
it ruins. Yeah,
it
you're
plants
right.
a little seed in your head, and all of a sudden you're drawing next time. You're like, now I'm thinking about the one person who said something bad when everyone else said something good, and I'm like, I should give more attention to the people who are positive.
It's got to be biological in some way to be like just good things. Just go like that. And but then the one bad thing, like. And it can ruin the whole perception. Like Ultra Mega, I love that book.
Love Ultra
If you type in Ultra Mega, the first thing is one bad review.
I love
For real.
that.
If you type it in, it's like the first thing that pops up, and it pisses me off. I'm like, one bad review, but no one will come out and bury it with good reviews.
Yeah.
So it's like, because that's not as clicky.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't like either way, for sure.
I mean, and so, on the flip side, I'm like, well, if I want to avoid, bad reviews and how that feels or whatever, like then I should avoid the good reviews too. Like they're both going to artificially make me feel a certain way. And like, I did notice that if someone said something, I'm a little too conscious of it when I'm working. And again, I would rather kind of work in that vacuum and keep the voice consistent throughout.
At least until it, maybe I told my mom when she sent it to me, I said, maybe when it's all done and collected and I'm like 6 months away from it and I'm completely detached. Yeah. But I got a comment. Even good ones can get in your head because they didn't even know what they meant. Like someone sent me one that was like, I love how you drew Godzilla with human teeth. And I went,
someone said that to me too.
Yeah.
And I looked at him like, my teeth don't look like that.
Yeah, the guy,
like
the person who said that.
Pretty conical teeth.
I love that you drew it like my teeth.
Well, the other thing I get, and it's just, here's the thing too, is that like a lot of people aren't, they're just, they're just fans. They don't really know what they're saying, or that a lot of people, I don't think they know that they have quite as much power or effect as they do
on my brain while I'm
exactly. And so I've gotten so many comments about Godzilla complimenting me on the art, and I'm just like,
thinking it's you,
thinking it's me. Like, first of all,
that feels good.
You clearly don't know how I draw.
You're not a fan enough.
Like we do have a cartooniness to our,
but we're very,
but still pretty different.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and a lot of people don't pay as much attention or whatever, and so like that's totally cool.
Because you have drawn for the most part. You've never. Is this your first only writing credit? Like where you only wrote it? Have you ever written for someone? I'm
trying to think if anything has actually come out. I did a tryout for for Green Arrow one time.
Oh, really?
And a one shot, and like
you are very Green Arrow-y right now.
Oh man, I am. I'm very Green Arrow-y. I got a little hat.
Yeah, and I think the guy from the show.
But I don't know anything about Green Arrow. I don't like Green Arrow.
What did you try out?
They asked me if I would do.
They asked you.
And I think they have a lot of people try out in Green Arrow. And
That's interesting. Like, we can't figure out the formula.
I did not. I just only heard once. Yeah, it's like a lot of DC writers get their tryouts on Green Arrow. And
That's the testing ground. And if you fail at that, they don't hire you because they're like, if you can't make
if
this
you can't
work.
do Green Arrow, honestly, this is funny. But I can, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, man, you just did not give them what they wanted at all. I gave them 2 pitches, and in hindsight, I'm like, you're a moron. It's so silly. One of them is I couldn't figure out what to do with this character because I just had no interest in it. Mm-hmm. And so I gave them 2 pitches. One story was called The 10 Worst Things About Green Arrow.
Oh, well.
They're like, not this one.
They didn't even open it. Like,
and the second one was Everybody Poops Green Arrow.
Dude, they're like, he's making a mockery of our lineage.
Yeah, I think so. And I thought, and so
Can you imagine that as an editor? Hey, would you like to try for Green Arrow? Poop, Green Arrow. And they're like, I don't think he's taking this seriously.
Yeah, I think that is the response. And like, in hindsight, I'm like, that wasn't the right move. But my other inclination is if you're only going to do a one shot, it better be fun, right?
Yeah.
And so I am often like, well, I've only got 20 pages. Why try to get into some,
emotional,
some real emotional stuff?
Yeah.
You don't have time to build it, so go funny, right? And so, every the 10 worst things about Green Arrow was this battle that he was in, and it was going to lay out the 10 worst things about Green Arrow and why they're untrue. You know what I mean?
Okay,
then Everybody Poops Green Arrow was just because, the whole mission that he got stuck on was he was doing, his rounds around the city or something, being like, where's the crime tonight?
Yeah.
And he was like, I gotta take a break because I gotta take a dump. And so when he went to go take a dump, he ran into some shenanigans.
So the whole time he's holding it.
So the whole time he's holding it.
That's great.
Yeah, and eventually these bad guys that he's
ruffians,
tussling with, I forgot how, but they know that's what he was up to.
Yeah, wait,
so,
he's got a poop.
I forget.
Get him.
I think there's like a trap door in some public bathroom or something into this like underground sewer system.
So it's like crazy. This is
crazy.
All crazy.
Yeah. And so eventually they sneak up on him and like one of them like slammed him in the chest with like a sledgehammer and laid him out. And one of them gets in his face and like, everybody poops Green Arrow.
And then it just cut
so
to black.
Yeah, so DC they eventually like, well, the series got canceled, so we're not gonna run that one. I'm like, you know what? I know what I wrote. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're being nice.
They were so nice they canceled the whole book. So they didn't have to tell you that it was because of you.
Yeah. I think they were just being nice. And I was just like, that was the wrong move. But to that
You
end,
can use that idea with I think Green Arrow might have been the wrong hero, but that idea of just some superhero doing that is funny enough. If it had been like the Chris Samnee run of Daredevil, like the swashbuckly, that would have been a great issue of Daredevil if it was him. But how do they piece it together that he's got to poop? Like,
I don't remember. It was years ago.
That's the.
I think it was where they ran in. I think it was where they met him. Like he found his he had a bathroom he would always use.
The trapdoor. Yeah.
And there was, I think, a secret entrance. So I think he was on the John when he heard them. Like he was in the stall or something, and he was like, hey, you're bad guys. I don't remember.
You bastards. He's about to, he unbuckles the belt now.
Yeah. He's like, hang on. And he pulls his drawers up. So,
Speedy's already in there doing a line of cocaine or whatever. It's the best issue.
So to that end, though, but you can see how, trying to write a story for something you don't actually care about is hard.
Yeah.
Being if you don't relate to it, you're like, how do I get in? How do I write for a character and also for a fandom that you don't relate to?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, when I was like, hey, I want to do Godzilla because I love it, I was just like, I can give you Godzilla ideas all day, or I pitched a Devil Dinosaur idea that was super Kirby-esque. They're taking, they have their own new modern Disney Plus version of Devil Dinosaur now. And my idea was I just wanted to basically, from the Kirby version of Devil Dinosaur, I absolutely adore it. I love the way he would draw all those goofy, non-realistic dinosaurs and stuff. And I just find Moon Boy, the chimpanzee character in there, just super annoying and way too talkative. So I was just like,
did they tone that back in the Disney Plus version?
He's gone. He doesn't exist. They're like, we agree with you, Andrew. He is a crappy
Everything
character.
you love, they exact
No, I hate Moon Boy. I just
you
love
hate him?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
so you liked? I thought you were saying I liked that part of Moon Boy, so my pitch was all Moon Boy.
no, Moon Boy was bait. So
Okay.
so there's one of the great original characters or stories of Devil Dinosaur was these aliens.
Mm-hmm.
These aliens come, and so in my pitch, these aliens were gonna come. I wanted to draw them very Kirby-esque. We're gonna come, and they were kind of like cataloging all of the the dinosaurs and the species and everything. So they were collecting all of these creatures, and so this is how I found a way to give Devil Dinosaur both motivation because he loves Moon Boy, and also get rid of Moon Boy.
Yeah.
And so the aliens abducted Moon Boy.
I want to see your scene of that because with your his style when you drew the little in volume 2, I think the little, what are they called, those goofy little guys with the hats on the beach?
Fungas.
Like they're so cute,
called.
and like Minya, the way you draw Minya on the cover. In our book, is it Manila or Minya? Because I always say Minya.
Well, so I try to pronounce it the way they said it in at least one of the movies I referenced.
Mm-hmm.
So I always call that character Mania.
A Minya, okay.
But there's
and then they translate. It's like Rodan sometimes is Radon. In English versions and stuff.
So when I in the scripts, I was writing it. There's a few spellings, because I guess it's translated in some way, but just like it's a proper noun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a word that can be translated. So I was writing it in the script as Minya, because that's how I was reading it online a fair bit when I was trying to reference it. But Toho very specifically is like this is how we spell it, which looks like Manila,
And I love the graciousness of them understanding because we've grown up with it. They've got to know. They're like, people like I felt really cool. I sent them the logo that I designed with the katakana and the kanji. Yeah. Well, I had only katakana, so I had it being literally translated War for Humanity in katakana. So it was all the phonetical spellings.
Right.
And then they were like, we love this logo, but just for clarity, can we use the kanji instead? And
That's
they gave
awesome.
me the kanji.
That's perfect. I was wondering
and that felt
too.
so cool.
I knew you had designed it, and I was like, did he just like pop in Google Translate or something? So I'm glad that they proofread it for us. I'm like, it could say everybody poops Godzilla, and I don't know.
Well, it's cool too because they said this is correct in the katakana. Can we do the kanji? Not, wow, you really butchered our language.
Wow, you're fired.
You will not draw this book. But before the little kids, I would have loved to see your cute version of Moon Boy being please, and he's talking really long as he trails off.
And exactly, and then so it was twofold. I could get rid of Moon Boy, but where Moon Boy speaks, I could split the scenes between Devil Dinosaur tracking the aliens. And I was gonna beat the snot out of him. It was gonna be called Devil Dinosaur, like Hell and Back or something. I just wanted him to just like he's just like he
Pieces
loves
missing.
Moon Boy, and so every time they he's just following their tracks, there's like a big tank or something like I pictured like in like Turtles, like the eyeball on the head kind of thing.
Yeah,
and so then the whole idea was that he was gonna get the snot beat out of him trying to save his buddy, and meanwhile where Moon Boy could talk, like I could have these scenes where we learn about the aliens because we could watch it from Moon Boy's perspective or whatever. I don't know, talking about it, they were just great. Like, we don't want to even hear about it.
Well, like Moon Boy,
it was fun putting it together because I just love Kirby's.
And it probably helped you get an idea of how to pitch, and it helped you to get to Godzilla and fine tune it a little bit.
That was when I was like, do I want to do any licensed stuff or something? Yeah. And that was when I was kind of being like, I had already done the Green Arrow pitch. So I just felt so wrong for that. I don't care about that character. I don't know anything about that character. But I realized, putting a pitch together for Devil Dinosaur and then Godzilla, I'm just like, if it's something I care about, it's a lot of fun.
Easier.
I can have as much fun doing it as Snarlagon or Head Lopper or something that I've, created.
If you kind of take it and make it, I'm almost like tricking myself drawing the pages as if I created this. Yeah. I'm like, let's pretend like Godzilla doesn't exist and I'm creating it for the first time. What's mine? But you can't help but love all the stuff. So I'm going to inject it. when you were pitching Green Arrow and they gave you that, as like asked you how early on was that early enough to where you weren't like you were feeling like I need to do it because I'm not a super established, or were you pretty like you done those Head Lopper Kickstarters already? Or
I was, yeah. So when I had done that tryout at DC, the editor I was working with, I had met the editor a few times, and I knew that she really liked ApocalyptiGirl.
Yeah. Oh, so that had come out at this point.
Yeah, that had come out. I think some stuff had come from Head Lopper stuff had come out, and so I think it was probably her idea, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Which honestly, I was so appreciative that she would be like, "Do this. Let's get this guy to try out." That I felt like I almost failed her, like turning in a version where she's like, "I promise." This is what I'm picturing, anyways. I promise he can write okay.
Poop, no.
And then the editor in chief is just like, "I don't think he can."
Well, how early on did you start when you did ApocalyptiGirl, Head Lopper, that you started feeling like you were getting editors' attentions about? Was that? And how did that feel? And has that since? Do you still get offers from editors going, "We want to kind of tap into what you're doing"?
Not a ton. I think. I don't get
or companies. Like, is Dark Horse more open to being like are they like Snarlagon when it goes to a publisher? Is that I would assume that's the plan.
It was the plan, but I also kind of like the idea of having something very exclusive.
Yeah, that's the Kickstarter feeling. Is you?
Yeah. Having it's like I've got, ApocalyptiGirl Dark Horse, I've got, Head Lopper Image, and I'm happy to have them stay there. And I did talk to a publisher I had a publisher offer to do Snarlagon, but it's like, it's twofold. Snarlagon's a little bit of an experiment. Like, I've been doing it long enough. It's like, how essential is a publisher if you've established yourself a little bit?
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of I want to watch and see how that goes, but also, cutting out all the middlemen of, your publisher and distribution. You can still do stores if you distribute it yourself. It's like, if I sell like a volume of Head Lopper, it's like, as creators, we're at the very bottom of the payment totem pole. So it's like, if there's anything left, we'll get paid.
Yeah, that's true. Like, if they're not paying, like Dark Horse, I have an advance, and I'm like, "Has my advance been paid off?" And they're like, "Not yet." And I'm like, "I don't know when I'll see money."
I took a very tiny advance for ApocalyptiGirl, and it was so tiny and negligible that I was like, "Why did I even bother?"
Should have taken nothing and then got all of it on the back.
It was really, it didn't matter. But I'm not sure. So basically it's like, if I sell a copy of Head Lopper through a store, like, I don't know, maybe I make $1, if that,
one day.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but like if I sell Snarlagon, a book that's a quarter of the length, you know what I mean, and half the price, I make like $7 a book. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, well, sell 7 copies of a 300-page book that took me, 2 years to draw, or or sell one $10 book, So it's a little bit of an experiment, and I do kind of like the idea of maybe keeping it exclusive. And
I like that too, because then it perpetuates the idea that for people of being like, well, that was exclusive. His next one will also be exclusive, so I don't want to miss it.
My wife and I have been running Laser Wolf Attack for about 6 years now, I think. And it started out as kind of like, we're going to have a t-shirt company, something that's like, art focused, but not comics, things that aren't attached to
like this toy
IP.
Right here.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, Thunderfang.
And he was kind of our mascot,
He's awesome.
Basically, because it started with a t-shirt. I had a t-shirt that
ice cream.
they called Strawberry Shitstorm, and it was really popular.
This guy in poop, man.
Yeah. And so
I wanted a company where I could do as much poop as I wanted.
So we were like, all right, like maybe, and so we, at the time, my wife and I were considering starting a business outside of comics. We looked into like opening like a barcade or something like that. Cool. And we lived in Salem, Massachusetts at the time. And we just learned like, oh man, a liquor license is hard to get there. It's very limited. And if you get one, it's like $175,000 or something crazy. Yeah. Wow. So it was just so much overhead to get started that we're like, dude, we can make t-shirts tomorrow. You know? So it was like a very low risk way to do something that we wanted to do outside.
And is that
of
an
comics.
itch as well? That was definitely like, I want to scratch that itch. Graphic design T-shirts. Like
No,
stuff
that
like
was about money.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that was
no,
like
we
a
all
business.
have that. There's like things where like this podcast, the fun part is that, I'll have guests on, and then the money part will be, Zoe, we got to edit it and make all this stuff. And I hate that stuff. So Zoe's doing it.
Yeah.
But like, so the T-shirts is a money itch, not a creative itch.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it, but it's like when I went to college for music actually, but a lot of things I learned that were kind of around intellectual property and how to just kind of like manage a creative career, I find is still very applicable.
Oh, for sure.
And something that a lot of my professors had said that was pretty universal was that, you should have they would reference it as having multiple fires. Basically, instead of building one fire, putting all your logs on one fire, or all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
They would
Fire's cooler than eggs.
Fire's cooler. The idea is that you build a lot of small fires. So then if you have a fire go out, you weren't leaning all on one thing.
Yeah.
And so, luckily my comics are still doing all right, but our store is a really great supplement to our income because comics is really hard. Art in general is really hard. And so that's why we have like a separate kind of branding for Laser Wolf Attack, is that like our following on, Instagram for Laser Wolf Attack, it's not a huge following, but we've noticed there's little to no crossover. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. You would think that almost all the
Head Lopper fans would be.
Yeah, I would think that it'd be all 6,000 or 7,000 or some whatever Laser Wolf Attack account has, would be 100% would be from the Andrew account, but it's not true, and I think that's interesting.
It is interesting. We made a podcast or a Instagram podcast for the podcast Instagram separate from my own, and I'm very like, why all the people, like, it'd be better. I've already got followers, but immediately it started being people. And now what you hope is those find their own audiences, because that is weird. You'd think crossover would be, I like comics, I'll like a podcast about comics, but it's
the same dude or whatever.
Yeah, but it's very different, isolated, and like you don't want to make the T-shirt people feel like they have to know your comics to enjoy your T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
And I totally understand, and learning that has been really interesting because it works in everything. Like this comic is about Godzilla, and in the art, I don't need to emphasize things like, I'm not Jeff Darrow, and I think some artists go, I've got to be as detailed as possible. But our thing is for kids. Primarily, I feel like it's aimed at kids. Everyone can enjoy it, but it's aimed at kids. So I'm trying to draw it in a way that a kid doesn't go, wow, he drew the subway with every single window and all the little spokes and every nut and bolt. And
the kids who will become artists, they might do that.
They might do that. But not the masses, and when I'm on a tight deadline.
Yeah, sure. yeah, right, for sure.
When I'm on a tight deadline, I'm like, the kids don't care about those nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Stop it.
They don't care about that 3 millimeter face. Also, I heard a stat once, I don't know how you collect this kind of data, but like, the average person spends like 2 to 5 seconds per panel.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you slow down too much, you'll pull yourself out of the story. So like, read comics however you're most comfortable. But I found that if I keep a pretty quick pace on an actual like story read through, I'm going to enjoy it more because conversations are natural.
They're snappy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love Jeff Darrow, and not to be like I hate him.
He's genius, yeah.
But again, I think there's a great, Kyle can tell that, I don't think he told the story, but Kyle told me he met Jeff Darrow, and there's like one bad review about Shaolin Cowboy, like the one where he's just fighting zombies the whole time.
Yeah.
Have you seen that review?
No, but I just remember when that book came out, hearing someone complain about the fact that it's just a fight for the whole thing or something.
The review is like, it's not really a story, it's just fighting. And Kyle met Jeff Darrow, and he goes, what'd you think about that? And Jeff goes, I get what he's saying. The only thing in the review that I didn't agree with was that he said it was drawn badly. And Jeff Darrow was like, I don't think it was drawn badly.
It's definitely
he was like, I get it not being a story.
Yeah.
But he was like, I can't agree with you about that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've been trying to get in the mindset of, do I want to be, not saying I'm even close to his skill, but if my goal is to get to a level, do I want to be detail guy like Jeff Darrow and only come out with a book every like 4 years, which is fine because when Jeff Darrow does come out, you're like, oh my God. Or no, like you, do I have all these ideas and I want to get them out? And what's the level of sacrifice in my art that I can comfortably do and not feel like I'm
keep a pace.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm looking at guys who are really good at that, like you and, James and Trad Trad's insane. So he's on his own. I always say
both
this. They're both insane. I think James is really good at knowing the pace. Mm-hmm. Like I can read, I pour over it cause it's James and he's amazing. Yeah, right. But if I just take my brain out and go, I'm a consumer, not an artist, I can read his and it feels fast. Yeah. And I think he's consciously doing that, but I like to hear that that's kind of a thing. Cause I feel like Mignola, in a way, you've started out at one level of detail and you've found your like stripping and like finding what works the most. And especially for these Godzilla covers, because of the tone, I feel like they're some of your most minimalistic, you know what I mean, without sacrifice. Like it's like it's minimal, the style, because they're cartoony, but that's the tone, that's the vibe. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like you were lazy. Do you know what I mean?
The other thing with the covers is I want them, I actually feel like this one's one of the exceptions. I want you to be able to see it from far away. So I want them to be very graphic. And also in Snarlagon, and so I'm drawing Snarlagon and these covers simultaneously. In Snarlagon, I didn't do any cross hatching. Yeah. Instead, all my lighting is like washes, is like grays. And so, being that I was painting these pages, it felt very natural to then go do my covers, in a very painterly way. So they're very minimalistic, compared to, some of the...
My cats are getting rambunctious right now. They're like, what the hell are you talking about?
She's here.
It's adorable. But so I was just saying, working on the Godzilla covers, I'm working on those, I was working on those simultaneously as... the Snarlagon book, which is, painted in grays and whatnot. And so to do the Godzilla, and like, even if you're doing the same lighting as cross hatching or whatever, the appearance is much more streamlined when you're just using tones. Yeah. And so the covers are all similar to, even though they're more digital because of all the edits and things. Yeah. It's very much a more streamlined, clean, style. Appearance, like similar to Snarlagon, for these covers.
Yeah. Andrew, so sorry to end it, but we're at time, but I would love to have you on again someday. Yeah. I'm sure you're going to have future projects coming out all the time. So. I
hope so.
Is there anything you want to plug other than Snarlagon that's coming, or your website or anything like that?
Yeah, we got Snarlagon will be available for purchase, in the nearish future. Like, you got to keep checking out our Godzilla. We've only just gotten started. So, our issue 2 will be out very soon.
With great covers also. You see those variants? They're awesome.
They're awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of them. I thought you were just being complimentary to me, but no, there's a lot of great ones. Yeah.
Also, you're all right, but Trad's got one.
Trad's got one.
No, yours are fantastic.
Awesome ones. Yeah, I don't want to burn our time on it, but all of them I've seen have been so cool. And I had sent an initial list of like, here's all the artists I think would be cool to touch this book in some way. And some of them that they've gotten are on that list and some of them aren't, but they've been all good choices and super cool covers. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I'm super happy to have you on. It was really fun. Thank you so much for coming, for driving all the way. You're on your tour though.
Yep. It just worked out. I was driving through town anyway. So
what's your next stop?
Well, we're going to stop in Memphis for some more barbecue.
Memphis! Hey, we're from Tennessee. There you go. You were born in Memphis. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can relate that, but it's great. She was born there. You're eating there.
Perfect. I'm eating there.
It's got to be connected. We're all connected.
And then we're hoping to, the book should be, they're at the printer now, but they should meet us at our first signing stop at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. In Charlotte, and then we're gonna hit Third Eye in Annapolis, Maryland, and then we're gonna hit
I love
Third Eye, and then we're gonna hit Baltimore Comic-Con, and then
wow, nice.
It goes on and on.
You're gonna be real tired.
So busy. So busy.
The guy who writes Blood Force with me, Hiram, he lives like 10 minutes from Third Eye, so I'm trying to guilt him into going and saying, hey, I'm Hiram. and getting some stuff signed. Yes. Okay, cool. We did it. If you want to watch this next time, it'll be out 2 Wednesdays from now. So every other Wednesday we're posting a new episode. Follow us on Spotify. I'm trying to get it up on iTunes. It's being really weird, but we're on Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. I've got all my links. Andrew will have all his links in the info. So we did it. Cool.
We did it.
We did it. Excellent. Yeah. And then you'll add an explosion.